So before watching this video, I just want everyone to know that for the graduate students who purchased this course, thank you very much. But this specific video is targeted highly towards undergrads, so it might not be incredibly helpful for you. The purpose of this video is just to discuss the two general paths that I've seen when becoming a product manager out of college, specifically undergrad. So before we get in the nitty-gritty of what skills to develop, what classes to take, and what experiences are going to be really beneficial, I just wanted to talk about the higher overview of ultimately the two paths that you can take to becoming a product manager out of college. So what I mean by the path to becoming product manager is I'm essentially talking about two paths, the traditional and the non-traditional, and this is coming out of undergrad. The traditional path is the one that if you go on LinkedIn and search APM or Associate Product Manager, the typical kids that are going to come up are going to look like this. They're majored in computer science, they went to a top tier school, their freshman internship was essentially any internship that they could get, usually a junior software engineering internship. Their sophomore year, they interned at a large company, usually software engineering, Salesforce, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, one of those. And then their junior year is typically an APM internship or a product management internship at any company, sometimes smaller tech companies, sometimes newer. And then ultimately they'll become full-time product managers. And then outside of their internships and things like that, they were usually a teaching assistant for a computer science class, or they had their own successful side project or business. And I analyzed over 100 LinkedIn profiles for Google APM, Microsoft PM, Facebook RPM, all the big ones. And this is essentially the profile that you're always going to come upon. So if you really want to be a product manager and you want to just look at basically the best odds of what other people have done, that's essentially what you can do. Software engineering internship at a major company, any product management internship, CS major. And that's the path that most people are going to take to end up becoming a product manager. So the next type of profile of person that you usually see is going to be the non-traditional path. And this is the path that I would put myself in. And these are usually the kids who are anything but a computer science major because they took the path less traveled. Your odds are going to be better if you're a computer science major because you can ultimately apply to more programs. And a lot of companies, even though they don't require it, will prefer technical product managers. But these kids who fall in the non-traditional bucket majored in anything but computer science, usually, going to be honest, probably business or economics, and then they did a minor in computer science, or they did at least some technical background. They had some technical project to kind of increase their technical acumen, which is what I did. I did both of those. And then at the same time, that student usually has some type of significant side project or business that's really impressive and helps them stand out. And here's a couple examples of that. So I have one friend who works at Asana as an APM, and he did incredibly well. He had a company that grossed over $1 million in sales, and he ended up selling it. And then he actually went on and developed his design skills, and he was just a master of design. So that's another example. Then I have one friend who was hired as the first undergrad product manager at Amazon, and he had an incredible successful company selling on Amazon, and Amazon actually recruited him to be a product manager for their platform. Then finally I had one friend who went to Wharton and didn't have a CS major or minor, and then he actually dropped out of Wharton, worked on his own business for a year. That didn't work out, so he did a coding boot camp, became a product manager at a startup, then went back to Wharton for one semester to recruit, and now he's an Uber APM. So, as you can see, there's a lot of non-traditional paths people take to becoming product managers. And usually, you don't have to fall into one of these two paths. If you don't be concerned. But when I look at the profiles of people who become product managers, they usually fit into one of these two categories. And ultimately, it's incredibly, incredibly important to develop the skills and to develop the skills and attributes of a product manager before becoming one. But I think it's also really important to know what works for people in the past, and that's ultimately the common profile, right? So, I mean, if I could personally do it again, I would have majored in computer science. I would have done a software engineering internship at any major company after my sophomore year. I would have done any internship at a startup freshman year. And then junior year, I would have gone for a product manager internship at either Google or Microsoft. And then if I didn't enjoy that internship, I would have recruited for product manager roles at other tech companies for full time. And that's what I would have done if I could do it again. And then I would have tried to be a TA for computer science class as well, because that just seems what works for people. That might just be that the people who are drawn to product management and do well are just drawn to those activities. So it might not be a straight cause and effect, but I think it's good to be educated on what that common profile is for people. The thing is that I want you to know is that I knew what these common traits and activities were when I was a freshman. When I had interned at Juicero, someone had been like, oh, you should look into Google's APM program. And I started looking at the Google APMs on LinkedIn and noticed that common trend of TAs, computer science majors. And I actually opted for that non-traditional path. I really enjoyed the business school at Michigan, so I wanted to stay in it. And I thought doing the minor would be enough, so I tried to technical skills. But at the same time, when I was going through college, I kept in the back of my mind like, oh, they want technical people. They want people who can launch products. They want people who are ambitious. And I tried to emphasize those skills and attributes throughout my internships and extracurriculars and my time in school as well, even though I went for the non-traditional path. Because what I really look for in life, and what I think everyone should, is you want to do what makes you happy and what you enjoy. And the person that follows their passions and they're enjoying everything they're doing is going to be able to tell a much more convincing story than the person who just did things to do them. For example, say you want to be a product manager and you know this freshman year and you do all the right things, but you hate it and you're just miserable. So when you get to your interview, they're going to be like, oh, like, what do you enjoy doing? Like, are you passionate about this? Do you like doing this? And you're just going to begrudgingly going through the steps, and you're not going to do as well because you're not enjoying. We perform best at the things we like. So I really implore you to keep in mind through these next chapters what they look for and the skills that you should be developing, but how can you develop those through the things you enjoy. For example, if you want to be a product manager on a super technical product, but you hate that, you shouldn't necessarily just do something to do it. You should be doing something because you want to do it, and you're going to enjoy it and you're going to do it really well. And ultimately, follow your passions and keep in mind those building blocks to being a great product manager. And as long as you stick between those two things, you'll come out with a really strong and good outcome.